in our previous lesson, we were able to block in color for our skin tones, and now let's focus on our gear. So if we turn on our pencils, you can see that we have a lot of armor and little pants and plates and things like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to treat this the same way we did our skin. And so we're going to create a path around each one of these little pieces here. So we're just going to start with this armband, and let's make sure that we do have on combining shapes, because when we stop here, we're going to have a shape, and then when we continue, then we're going to have a separate shape. And so we're going to try and just kind of keep these all as one piece, and we can just kind of fill them in once we have them finished. And so we'll just start here and start to create our shape for all our different little pieces of gear, like that. So I'm going to continue here and create all these little paths, and I'm going to pause the recording, and when I come back, then we'll have our path. And I'm also going to, here's the one thing that we need to do. We're going to create the paths for our gear, and then we'll create another path for the pants. So I'll go ahead and have these as two separate paths. So go ahead and, as you create your path, make sure you make that turn that work path over, and then we'll make another path here for the pants. And so I'll be right back when we're finished. Alright, so we have our two paths here. We have this gear path, then we have this pants path. Now I did take the liberty of correcting some of these little angles here. I added a little bit to this leg pad that we have, and just kind of straighten out the boots. We didn't really have much of a heel here for the boots, so I added that. This leg looked like a little narrow, so I went ahead and added a little bit to that boot, and kind of, it's going to be kind of like a wavy leather, so I went ahead and added a little bit to that. And so, but for the most part, we do have our gear following the sketch, and then of course our path for our belt down here. So we'll go ahead and we're going to hold Control, or actually we'll just go ahead and use this little button right here to create the selection. Let's come over to our paths, or to our layers. So we'll make a new layer, and this will be above our skin tone, and we'll just call this our gear. And we're going to fill gear with, I do have my Pantone swatch book open, my color book, so I'm going to fill it with maybe this lighter gray right here. So it's 445. So we hit Alt, backspace. And if you can't tell if anything happened, let's go to your pencils and let's go ahead and turn that to multiply. And then we'll hit Control D to deselect our selection. And now let's create some pants. This will be a new layer called Pants. We'll put this down here below our gear. And we'll choose a darker color for our pants. And we're going to grab our paths and select the pants layer. And let's just go ahead and create that selection. And then we're going to choose a darker color for that. And so you can go to your swatch book over here if you don't have all these swatches. And I'm just using, you can't see it because it kind of is going off screen, but I'm just grabbing the Pantone Solid Coated down here. So we're going to choose maybe this, one of these much darker colors here. So this is a 426 that we have selected. And we're going to Alt, Delete, and then Control D to deselect that. And we are going to go to both the gear and lock the transparency, and the pants and lock the transparency while we're thinking about it. And so for we'll start with our gear, and let's go ahead and Control plus a little bit, zoom in. Let's grab a nice green color to start filling in. And if it helps you, let's go ahead and bring the opacity down of our pencils. We want it just low enough to where we can kind of see, but we don't want it to distract from what's going on. And so I didn't grab the straps. We're going to just draw those in by hand when we're finished, but I want to go through here. Let's see. Let's grab a nice dark green, maybe over here. So this is 34, 35. Let's grab our paintbrush, and we are going to take a look at our shape dynamics. And so we do have that set to 1%, and our shape itself Now we don't have anything on except for a pin pressure controlling the size. And we're going to, let's see where we're at. We'll go to our gear, and we're going to just use this. Actually, I didn't grab that green, did I? $34, $35, somewhere in there. There we go. Let's grab that. Okay, so we'll use that green, and we're going to kind of fill in the top part of that armor. We'll create a little line right here. And it's okay if you overlap. We'll come back as we colorize the gauntlet. So we'll make this top part green, that dark green. We'll color in our pads a nice dark green for the top. And then for our boots, we'll also go through here, and we're going to just make like the top part of our boots like this green color. Well, these will be like a two-tone type of boot. And then we're going to grab some browns. And so maybe we'll grab, let's see here. This looks like a nice brown somewhere in here, maybe over here. So this is, looks like 470 is what we have selected, or 483. We can color in our boots down here, maybe a little bit darker than that. Let's see what this is. This is 476. Well, I actually didn't select it though. What about 497? There we go. That looks nice and dark. We can use that other color as kind of like a highlight. And so we'll just kind of fill in our boots. And then we're also going to fill in our belt with that dark brown and the bottom of our armor. So this will be like the part that's touching the skin. We can come through, and this is like protecting her insides from any kind of attack. It'll just, you know, it's a little bit more bendable than the actual armor itself. So we'll fill that in. We'll fill in the bottom part of her boots. And then her gauntlets. And so you can kind of see roughly where those gauntlets fall. So just follow that line through, about like that. And then you can just hit this one up entirely. And then what we'll do is we'll grab, let's grab a pretty much black color. Just hit D on your keyboard, and that will just convert to the default black. And then we're going to color in those straps on her leg pads here, just like that. So much easier that we have this color that we're able to pull from. And then we're going to go to her pants. And so remember, we filled those in with that dark color. We're going to come through, and we're going to use complete black, and we're going to just hit up some parts of her pant. We'll hit the edges. We're later going to come back through with some highlights, but we're going to hit the edges of her pants about like that. We're going to come down underneath her pads, add a little bit of shadow, very loosely. We're going to create that little crease right there. I'm going to come through underneath the knee, about like that. And then we're going to go back to her gear, and we're going to use the eyedropper to select a darker green, or select the green that we were using. But then we're going to bring that color up just a little bit. And we're going to just hit those pads up with a little bit of highlight. And we can also hit the tops of her boots, and then just a little bit of highlight for the boots themselves. I'm going to come through and highlight a little bit of the boot down here. And then for her armor, we'll spend a lot more time focusing on her armor, but I want to just kind of outline about where all the shiny marks are on the armor. And then down here below, going to create just a little bit of shininess. And then just this little highlight right here. We'll hit that up as well. And then maybe one down here on the bottom. And then on the back will have a lot of light. And so we'll just add a nice highlight back there. And then let's go ahead and hit our foreground color. And we're going to sample that darker color for the green. And maybe we'll even hit that, just tap that foreground color. We might even bring this down a little bit more. And we're going to create some shadows. And so maybe even bring the brush size down just a little bit to like about 60. We're going to just come through and create some of the shadows here that are going to be in our armor. I went a little bit too far there. I'm going to redo that. And so this will be underneath that gauntlet. We'll have just some darker colors. We're going to add some ribbing here for armor. About like that. And then we're also going to add, the way armor is, it's just kind of lots of lights and darks that kind of create some unique shapes here. And we'll come through and add just some ribbing for the back. And then we're going to take a look at our leg pads here. We'll add some, we'll focus on this one first. We're going to add just some ribbing here for her leg pad. And then for her boots, we'll add just some darker shadows for the boots. And then I'll go ahead and add some ribbing for this leg. So we'll start with this side first. We'll add just a little bit of ribbing. And we'll come through. And so that's why we added that highlight first, is because we'll come right back over it. And then for her boots, we're going to go ahead, we can sample, actually, we'll sample her boot, and then we're just going to drag that color down. And we're going to kind of come through and just add a little bit of shadow here. And so with the boots will really come through and add a lot of detail. So we're going to hit up maybe the heel, maybe come through and just add a little bit of detail through here. And then on this one, so let's also add just like this little separator right here between the two types of material making up her boot. About like that. And then we're going to hit up this side of the boot with shadow. And we'll come through, because this is like a leather type material, add some type of fold lines. And then the bottom, something like that. Let's take a look. It looks pretty good. We're going to do the same thing with her belt. We'll add just a little bit of shadow here for her belt and her gauntlet as well. Oops. I keep forgetting that that's not a separate layer. We'll be more careful with that. Hit up the edge of that just very carefully. Let's do that part again. So we'll very carefully add just a little bit of shadow right here. And then come through on this side. And the same for this gauntlet, which this gauntlet will actually have a lot of shadow. So we'll go ahead and fill that in. About like that. Awesome. All right. So we blocked in a lot of color here, and I think that looks great. And so in our next lesson, we're going to focus more on her skin tone.